Cigar Stars. What's going on, everybody? I'm coming at you with a different video, and today we're doing another episode of Cigar Stars, and I got my boy Dante with me.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing great. What's happening?
Not much. You're going to meet a friend of ours, James Keane, and talk to him about all sorts of stuff that he's done through his excellent career.
Yeah, he's got a very impressive resume. He's done
does.
he's done stuff from Close Encounters of the Third Kind to Apocalypse Now to Adventures of what is it, Buckaroo Banzai?
Buckaroo Banzai, the Paper Chase TV series, lots of good stuff.
And Dick Tracy.
Dick Tracy, one of my favorites as a kid.
We're gonna go inside. We're gonna pay him a visit, and to switch things up a little bit, Dante, you're gonna interview.
Oh, really? Okay.
Jimmy.
Well,
yes.
I'll do my very best for you guys. I hope I do.
Yeah, I think you'll do a pretty good job. So we're gonna go inside, check it out, and let's have a good smoke.
We have a great time.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here with James Keane, also known as Jimmy. This is a seat that only Jimmy can sit in. We've heard rumors.
If I get here first.
You get there first,
Right,
right?
I can sit.
That's quite a competition for that seat, and we've heard that sometimes people that sit in this seat do not come back.
They go to the cigar graveyard.
Yes, they get the cement shoes. So, Jimmy, you've been in a lot of classics like Apocalypse Now,
Yeah.
Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and some of my favorites like Dick Tracy and Buckaroo Banzai of all things. Jimmy, were you interested in acting from the early ages, or did it just happen about?
Yeah, I'd say when I was about 11 years old, I used to take accordion lessons, and you know, my mother always had a lot of movie magazines around the house, and so I was interested in Hollywood, and I watched a lot of old movies and a lot of TV, and getting back to the accordion. So one day I said to my father, "Dad, do they have like a school that teaches you how to be an actor, like they have a school that teaches you how to play the accordion?" And he said, you know, he had remembered a long time ago there was a place in Buffalo, New York, my hometown, called the Studio Theater School, and he looked into it, and yeah, I was like 11 years old, and they had like a little summer course, and it was way on the other side of town. I took 2 buses to get there, and yeah, that was how we first started. And but like in high school, we didn't even have a drama department. I used to like MC these talent shows. That was, and then there was like community theater, but I didn't really do anything except work backstage. And then I went to, right after graduation, I came out to Hollywood first. That was a complete disaster because I didn't drive. I still didn't drive till I was about 31. But anyway, you know, not being able to drive out here, and
The commute here, the transit system is terrible.
well, I didn't know anybody or anything, and so anyway, I went back to Buffalo and regrouped. And while I was out here, I wrote a letter to this school in New York. It's been there since I think 1884, the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. And subsequently, I went down to New York and auditioned, and then I got into that school. It was a 2-year school, and I spent about 5 years in New York, and I couldn't get arrested in New York, but you know, I do these rinky-dink dinner theater tours out of town in places like Hurricane, West Virginia, and you know, I come back to New York and you have to find a regular job, and it was a vicious cycle, because if you work a 9-to-5 job, then you can't do what they used to call making the rounds, where you knock on agents' doors trying to get an agent. And if you worked at night, then you couldn't do the free off Broadway shows where you might be seen by an agent. So you know, it was tough. And so eventually, I always say did all these jobs that chimpanzees could do, and probably do better. So I got a job at the Sherry Netherland Hotel, one of the best hotels in New York, and I didn't know when I got the job, but Francis Coppola lived there, had an apartment there, and it was while he was making Godfather 2, and these are long stories, but eventually, you know, he took a liking to me. Like on my day off, Lincoln Center had a wonderful theater and movie library, and I just would go on my day off and I read everything that was ever written about Francis Coppola, so I could talk to him about stuff. But he took a liking to me, like his birthday during Godfather 2. All the actors from the movie came in, and he'd tell Jimmy's an actor and give me a piece of birthday cake, and I thought, oh God, please put me in Godfather 2, and he never did. And then they were going to go to. And I only kept the job as long as I did, because I was, imagine running an elevator 8 hours a day. But it was the Hollywood Hotel at the time, and every time a movie opened, all the actors were there from the movie and the director. And but they were going to go to Sicily for 3 months to film those scenes in Godfather 2. And I said to my friend, "Oh man, I can't run this elevator 3 more months. I got to do something else." And he said, "Well, how much more can you impress the guy than you already did?" So, and my other friend had moved out to California 6 months before, and he said, "Why don't you move out here?" And I said, "Is it as hard as New York?" And he says, "Well, it's no harder." So I did that. But in the meantime, I was positive Francis was going to be the one to give me my break, and it was Sidney Pollack, who was staying at the Sherry Netherland, who was filming 3 Days of the Condor at the time. And anyway, there was a writer there with him, the script doctor that was doing rewrites on the script. And he was a very nice guy, and Sidney's a very nice man. And Sidney used to be an actor, very good one. And so I never asked anybody for a part, but I tell everybody I'm an actor, Michael Caine, Mr. Caine, I'm an actor too, I'm just paying my dues. And so finally one day I said, screw it, because this script doctor writer, David Rayfield, he was very friendly, and I said, "Mr. Rayfield, I'm just gonna go for it. Do you think Mr. Pollack would need any extras in 3 Days with a Condor or any bit parts?" He said, "Well, you should ask Sidney that." And so I did, and I said to Sidney what I just said to David Rayfield, and Sidney said, "Are you in the Screen Actors Guild?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well," he said, "put your name and your phone number under my door, and I'll see what I can do for you." And, because I had to wear a uniform running the elevator, I had a locker, and I said, "Well, Mr. Pollack, like any good actor, I have some 8x10s and resumes in my locker. Would you want one of those?" And he started laughing, because he was an actor, And he said, "Yeah." So anyway, the cigar went out. There's more where that came from. Yeah, so when I was out in California, I couldn't get arrested. Forget acting, I couldn't even get a job. I remember walking down Hollywood Boulevard, and there's a little hole in the wall pizza place, and it says "Help Wanted." I said to the guy, "Hey, yeah, buddy, I'm looking for a job. You need somebody?" And he says, "You know how to make pizza dough?" And I said, "No, but I could learn." He goes, No, I need somebody with experience, probably minimum wage job."
Yeah.
So I wrote a letter to Francis, who was always based up in San Francisco, American Zoetrope, and I said, I'm not doing good out here, and I said, what do you think of if I came to San Francisco? I'd be willing to go for coffee, sweep the floors. I just want to be around people that make movies, as opposed to doing more jobs that chimpanzees can do. So his producer, this guy Fred Roos, who produced The Godfather and many other of his movies, he called me up. He said, "Francis got your letter," and he hooked me up with this casting guy who kind of acted as my agent for a few weeks. And the next thing, the casting director of Apocalypse called me up, and I don't know who I'm talking to. I'm talking to the room instead of you. And I had an audition for a really big part in Apocalypse Now that Frederick Forrest subsequently ended up doing. But and I read with Francis, and it was a big scene, and it went really well. And he said, "Oh, that was very good, Jimmy." When I was finished, he said, I said, "Well, I've been telling you I'm an actor for 2 years." And subsequently, they had screen tests, like group screen tests, improvisations, and I did that. And it's a long story, but I didn't get it, and I was like devastated because I really believed I was gonna get it because I had to believe because nothing else was happening. And about 2 weeks later, the casting director called me up and said, Fred Roos, the producer, you know, he wants you to come in, he wants to talk to you. So I went in, and he said, you know, Francis and I really liked what you did in the screen test. And, you know, first thing he said was, yeah, he said that. And then I said, well, I thought I was a lot better when I auditioned with Francis. I think I was pushing a little bit in the screen test because I wanted the part so badly. And he said, well, do you have any money saved up? And I said, yeah, Mr. Roos, I got $30 in the bank and I owe it. And he, ha, ha, ha. So he tells me if I get myself to the Philippines and back, which was $1,165, I asked him. And it's hard to do when you got 30.
Yeah.
And he said, I'll guarantee you like so many days work as an extra, which would be the money for the ticket back. He said, there's going to be a lot of good bits in the movie. And he said, I'll guarantee you first shot at the best bit. And my reply, being a naive bumpkin from Buffalo, just still, even though I was in New York 5 years, I was still off the turnip truck. I said, oh, Mr. Roos, I would pay you guys to let me go there, you know. And, you know, I borrowed $100 from this uncle, $200 from that aunt, and I got the money. And anyway, at first, he told me, you know, we're working extra. And he said, stay in the background, don't get near the camera, you know, because we're going to use you in something later. And so then one day, he walked up to me and said, by the way, in the movie, if anybody's seen it, probably some of you have, I was Robert Duvall's door gunner in the command chopper in the helicopter. So he walks up to me and he says, how do you like this? He's got the script and he says, Lieutenant Colonel, before a big battle, you're sitting in the helicopter at the door gun, and he says, how you feeling, boy? And my reply was, like a mean motherfucker, sir. And I looked at Fred Roos and I said, that's it? And he says, it's with Robert Duvall. And I said, okay. So anyway, the good news is Robert Duvall took an instant liking to me, and we're still friends to this day. He's 94 years old. I talk to him just about every day. And I didn't have an agent. When we went back to America, he set me up with his agent, who was a big time agent, Merritt Blake, great agent. And, you know, and he started sending me out, and I remember he told Bobby, oh, Bobby, it's so hard to get new people started, you know, and I said, hey, look, you know, just send me out there. I'll get hired. You just get me out there. And almost right away, within a few weeks, I was getting close on stuff. And then I you know, booked a few things, and within a year, I was on a TV series, The Paper Chase. So, but what you didn't know, because I earned it, I was in the Philippines 9 months for like a mean motherfucker, sir. And that's too long to go into because there were typhoons, destroyed the sets. Robert Duvall had to go to England to make another movie at the end of March, and he never came back till December. So in the meantime, you know, they said to me, what are you going to do, you know, till Bobby comes back? And I said, I figured Coppola directing, get to watch that, and Brando's coming over. And I said, well, if you give me a job that keeps me on the set, you know, I'll stick around.
Absolutely.
But I didn't know it was going to be December till Bobby came back with all the typhoons. And,
So what you're saying is you learned the local language.
well, they speak quite a bit of English in the Philippines, but I learned the dirty words in Tagalog. But yeah, so that was my big break by meeting Robert Duvall because I don't know if not too many young actors get an agent that big starting out,
That's pretty good.
and that's very important to have somebody with some clout.
Yeah. Well, Jimmy, you certainly did earn it. You showed a lot of tenacity, and it paid off.
Yeah, there was a guy that stayed at the Sherry Netherlands. I think his name was Mike Hamelberg, and his father had been a big agent, like Gene Autry's agent. And I talked to anybody. He was something to do in show business, producer. And the reason I bring that up is you said I showed a lot of tenacity. He said to me, "There's one word you remember. You have to remember if you're going to be in this business. Be tenacious."
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you've been good friends with Robert Duvall ever since.
Mm-hmm.
You ever considered a directorial debut with the Grumpy Old Men Part 3?
I was actually up for. That's a good story. I was up for Grumpy Old Men Part 2. I didn't get it.
Wow.
So, my father, he made me practice the accordion. Like, I said, I want to play baseball. I'm going to go and play. You're going to play a half an hour every day after school, and then you play baseball. And my father said, someday they're going to need an actor that can play the accordion, and you'll get that part because you can play the accordion. So I go up for Grumpy Old Men 2, and the guy played the accordion, and I didn't get it. So years later, Howie Deutsch was the director. I worked with him on an episodic show with Kathy Bates. I can't remember the name of it. Harry's Law. And I go up to him and I said, I auditioned for you for Grumpy Old Men. And I told him the accordion story. My father told me I'll get the part someday because you can play the accordion. I said, and you fucked up my father's story. and he started laughing. He says, well, you got this part. That's funny.
So Jimmy, I want to ask you about another feature you were in, Dick Tracy. One of my personal favorites because I was a kid when it came out and all those exciting characters. And you played Mr. Patton.
Yeah, that's probably the movie, one of the, I think, 2 movies I was ever in where I was in the whole movie. And it's probably my favorite just for the fun we had making it because, we got to work with so many big actors. I mean, there were so many people in that movie you wouldn't even know because they were wearing prosthetics that Warren Beatty got to do little bit parts like Dick Van Dyke and Mike Mazurki and oh God, I can't. But but the ones that you didn't know who they were. I mean, Al Pacino was in it, and
Mandy Patinkin, right?
Dustin Hoffman, Mandy Patinkin.
Yeah, a lot of greats.
I can't even think of them now. But these old character actors who grew up with R.G. Armstrong, was Prune Face. But yeah, it was a kick,
Yeah, you got to watch some of the prosthetics and makeup as it was applied.
Oh, I wasn't around that too much. Luckily, I was one of the handful of people in the movie that didn't wear prosthetics. I mean, some of these guys was like 3 hours or more, and then like an hour and a half to take it off. They were punching holes in the wall, actors in the makeup room. I can't imagine what that would be like to, sit through that.
Yeah, it's exhausting and hot.
Yeah, but they did a great job. The lady won the Oscar.
Oh, for makeup.
V. Neal.
Oh, right.
Val
I've
Neal.
heard of her, yeah.
Val Neal.
You keep in touch with Francis Ford Coppola at all?
Yeah, I mean, not as much as Duvall, but I stayed in touch over the years, and the only other time I ever worked with him besides Apocalypse was the last one, Megalopolis, which I was basically cut out of. I mean, I'm in there, but not much. But he did this movie, New York Stories. It was 3 segments, one directed by Scorsese, one by Woody Allen, and one by Francis. And it was written, his daughter Sophia, and he wrote it together. It was basically about her growing up at the Sherry Netherland Hotel. And when I worked there, besides running the elevator, at one point I became the security guard. And this is a 2-hour story, so I'm going to try to jump around it. But while I was there, it got robbed by 5 very professional burglars who were there. I was 3.5 hours at gunpoint.
Oh my gosh.
But they were very professional. I mean, I could do a whole segment on that. And the funny thing was, Francis was supposed to come in late that night with his wife, and I thought, and we're all handcuffed, one hand free, one to the guy that cleans up the restaurant, the guy that delivers the bread, the eggman, and a couple of guests that checked in. And I thought, oh boy, if Francis comes in and we live through this together, I'll really be tight with him, you know? But he never showed up. We're lucky for him. And so in this New York Stories, there's a very relatively brief segment about a robbery at the Sherry Netherland Hotel. And I played the part of Jimmy Keane, the elevator operator who wants to be an actor. But can you imagine, I finished working there 74, 75. Now it's 1988, so 13 years later, go back there and make a movie dressed up like an elevator operator. And Francis said to me one day, he said, do you just feel like you're going to work at the Sherry Netherland? I said, yeah, but when I went to work at the Sherry before, nobody ever said action. And so, I mean, that was
It's ironic.
very, very strange. And I remember the first time before that movie, it was not a few months after Apocalypse, and Robert Duvall was doing a Broadway play called American Buffalo, and he said, I want you to see me in this play. So he got me a ticket, and I went to New York, and while we were there, we went to the Sherry to meet Francis to go out to dinner one night. And this is Duvall's kind of humor. He says to me, and when you go in there tonight, when you go to see Francis, you see all those guys you worked with, fucking snub them.
We made it.
You know, he used to say when we'd be in San Francisco, where Francis's office is at the top of this old building that he owns, the top office, they call it the Tower of Power, and his office. And he said, let's go over and visit Francis and be a reverend to him. Like not kiss his ass. Yeah, that's about it.
Well, Jimmy, thank you so much for spending time with us tonight, entertaining us with some great stories from your past. And
thank you for listening.
Your prowess in Hollywood.
Yeah, I'm a
Can you say it was all
semi-living legend.
But you had fun doing it, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, I had some really good years and I had some terrible ones, but you know, if I had to do it all over again, I would do it again.
Absolutely.
I mean, not all my dreams came true, but some of them did. And I know I had more luck than probably 90% of the people that ever attempt to be an actor. But yeah, I wanted to be like Robert Duvall, but it wasn't in the cards.
It was also skill, and you certainly earned it.
Thanks, sir. I feel like I'm grateful, but I'm still available.
Yeah, all right. You got your hat in the ring.
Well, not really
Something
anymore.
else will come your way.
If that showbiz doesn't work out, I'm going to keep smoking cigars, just to fill in the gaps.
That's a prudent investment for sure. Well, thanks again, Jimmy. It was a pleasure.
Thank
Really
you,
enjoyed the time with you.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thanks again for tuning in to Cigar Stars, and we'll see you next time.
I was in the neighborhood anyway.
Sure.
Okay. All right.
All right, everybody. Well, that's a wrap. Dante, that went very well.
That went great. I had a lot of fun. And Jimmy was a great storyteller. Lots of neat stuff.
Yeah, it was great. I definitely enjoyed watching both you guys. Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
you very much.
You're very welcome. Thanks for doing that, Dante. But that's a wrap, guys. If you guys like this video, be sure to like this video. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. Feel free to share. And as always, we'll see you on the next episode of Cigar Stars. Oh yeah. Thank you for watching.